Hey, welcome back to the podcast. You guys remember when we used to do these? Well, you should. It's only been a few weeks. So, unfortunately, there's one major bad news to happen in the video game world, or Konami world. Our favorite Hideo Kojima, master of the Metal Gear legacy for over 30 years. He's been in Konami's business since the 80s. Has announced he has or is leaving the company, which leaves the fate of Metal Gear and other projects in major jeopardy. All because apparently there was a disagreement with someone in the head of the industry. So, what does this mean for Metal Gear? Well, he is going to stay on board to finish Metal Gear Solid 5 Phantom Pain. However, his name has been taken off the project altogether, so it's not known as a Hideo Kojima game. As I'm not sure if his name will appear in the credits at all, maybe in the special thanks, but like he has been totally removed as director of Metal Gear Solid 5. His company logo, which is the Foxhound Productions, the Fox logo, it's been removed from the game. However, the Fox engine is still being used, so that logo will still be in there. What does this mean for the future of the Metal Gear franchise? Well, word is Konami plans to continue production on more Metal Gear Solid games, and Kojima may be involved, but to a very limited degree than he has been. So it's very uncertain. And lastly, of course, everybody might be familiar with Silent Hills, which he was a part of and talked about, and he was directing it. He was with Guillermo del Toro and Norman Reedus creating that game, and unfortunately that now has been, we don't know anything about that game anymore. We don't know if it's going to be canceled, whether it's going to be put under a different division by a different team, but unfortunately if that's the case, now my hopes for Silent Hills is dwindled down significantly, because without Kojima there to be the director to go into this direction, I really don't know anymore. So what are your thoughts on this?
It feels like the end of an era.
Yeah.
I kind of get the same feeling when KG left Capcom.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, we all know what happened to Mega Man right after that. Yeah, I just cannot envision a Metal Gear game being made without
Well, they have
Kojima.
They have been.
Yeah, but not the major title ones. And I totally believe that they would try to make another Metal Gear game. They still own the license, I assume.
Oh yeah,
Konami does. So.
Oh yeah, it's totally Konami.
So if they started to do a Metal Gear Solid 6, I'm sure they would try, but would fans get behind it? Who knows?
Yeah, apparently what they announced is they're also going to be hiring a brand new production team to work on new Metal Gear games, and you can do that by contacting Konami's website and going into the contact page and saying why you should be recruited for the job. And that is scary because you're actually willing to recruit people who've never worked on a Metal Gear game.
Well, that brings up a good point, and that's a big problem with the video game industry nowadays. Nowadays, you have these companies that work on these titles that have been around for many, many years, but the people that created them are not left the company a long time ago. So even though you have these brand recognition titles, they're not being made by the same people who originally had the original vision. They're bringing in new people, and a lot of times
with their own vision.
And a lot of times it just doesn't mesh well or gel well with what people expect in the series. That's why I think you see a decline in a lot of these franchises.
Because with Hideo, he was literally the one mind, and everybody was inside his mind, and he was in theirs, and he was making it happen his way, nobody else's. With him not being around, you literally have a team with no leader.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't know what... They all have their own ideas and their own visions, and of course they're all trying to incorporate what they think should be in it, while of course doing what they're being told. But you've got all of these different ideas being put together, and of course they're not going to mesh well. Like, you can't have a team without a leader to keep an eye and keep them in check.
Well, let's kind of also face facts. Konami is not what it used to be back in the early 90s. It's kind of
no company is really.
But it really was kind of they had a one-trick pony, and that one trick was Hideo Kojima. He was kind of the guy that was kind of, I think, it was kind of hell holding them up with their Metal Gear things.
We had Castlevania for a while.
I know he did Castlevania Lords of Shadow, and I know people are mixed about it, but that did at least make Castlevania interesting again.
Like he didn't do Castlevania. He was involved.
He was involved in it.
Yeah,
but I think the fact that he was involved in it was enough to sell the game.
Yeah, which is why I think out of all the Lords of Shadows, people least hate the first one.
The first one, you know.
At the very least, they least hate that one.
Right, but like you said, when Castlevania had kind of been for a long time relegated to like the handheld games. You know,
honestly, I think they made the mistake with Castlevania when they decided to take it into the 21st or 22nd century. Mm-hmm. I thought that's when they kind of blew it.
Yeah, well, that was the problem. So when the thought came around for making a big Castlevania game for the consoles, you know, a potential AAA title, who was one of the first guys they went to at least put his name on it?
Kojima.
Kojima, because Kojima sells. Kojima is a brand that people trust. And I'm sure that Kojima will continue to make games.
Oh, yeah.
So
maybe.
He's kind of a free agent. Him and his company now can...
Because, like, interestingly...
I think Konami's definitely going to miss him.
Yeah, because interestingly, if you think about it, regardless of what Ground Zeroes did, or at least how people felt about Ground Zeroes, you look back... And you like immediately we looked back, like we were there and we were like, we were against this because we were paying $30, I believe, for literally around 30 minutes of gameplay. Mm-hmm. But looking back, it was actually a smart move, albeit the price was still a little high. Like $20 max probably should have been.
I agree.
Like $20 probably should have been the set price. But for what you got out of Ground Zeroes was you really did get a lot. You didn't just get that mission and that was it. No, you had side missions. You had a relatively big area to explore with a whole bunch of things you could do in that area. And what it did best was it allowed you to learn the game.
I was about to say that. You mentioned that, and I totally agree with you.
Yeah, like, it gave you a very big playground with everything that you should be able to do in Metal Gear. You can find vehicles, you can drive vehicles, you can find items, you can learn how to use these items, you can learn how the enemy AI works, you learn how the new game feels, because it's obvious the controls are vastly superior and vastly different from any Metal Gear that you've played up to now. So I think what it was, because if you go back to Metal Gear Solid 4, the cutscenes were tremendously long, but again, Metal Gear Solid 4, the gameplay was so different from Metal Gear Solid 3 that you were literally spending a lot of time running through the game through trial and error, just trying to figure out how to play and what you could do. Like, I think I beat the game before I learned that I could actually roll on the floor. So I think it was brilliant for them to release this, like, call it a glorified demo if you want, but it allowed you to learn how to play the game so that when you jump into the actual game of Metal Gear Solid 5 Phantom Pain, you will know how to play it. You can, as soon as you take control of the character, you'll immediately know how to play it. You can start going through, doing your thing, hiding, calling out, or doing what you can. And you had Ground Zeroes building it up. Ground Zeroes gave you a great presentation. It gave you a great story. It was dark, but it was great. You got the cinematic out of it. It gave you a very good cliffhanger ending. And for what it's worth, you got a lot of side stories and a lot of Easter eggs and a lot of stuff out of it. So glorified demo as it might be, it's $20 now. Might have been a little too much for $30, but looking back, it was actually a brilliant move. And at first when I first played the game, I liked it, but at the same time I was just like, oh, Kojima, what have you done? This was the wrong move. But looking back, I'm like, you know what? That was a mad genius move.
Yes.
So it was mad, but it was genius.
I agree with that.
So yeah, it just goes to show that this guy knew what he was doing.
It was Konami that was the one though that really priced it up to $30.
Yeah,
I think I originally wanted to do $40, which is way too much. I'm sorry.
Yeah, like honestly, I thought if you were going to release Metal Gear Ground Zeroes, maybe retail would have been a little much. Like I thought maybe you could have just released this online for $20 retail.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Like any higher would have been too much.
Yeah, it's just man, it's kind of sad when you look at all these companies that we grew up from our childhood. Capcom, Konami, Square. They're kind of not doing well right now. So what really is the problem? Do you think it's just rigid, old school business practices, and they're just not adjusting to the new to the new age, or
no, because if we were going back to the old school practices, then that would be for the better, because nothing was really wrong back then. The communication between gamer, player, and developer was far better, because everybody was feeling each other out and trying to come up with what good ideas were. And of course, technology wasn't what it is now, so we had to adapt and try to learn how to make it work. Mm-hmm. But what I think now is, I think video games got so big that people that don't know gaming or aren't even into gaming from the outside came in to the industry and just kind of took it over and became heads of these companies, maybe against...
Somehow found their way into heads.
Yeah, somehow found their way into becoming in charge of these companies and said, okay, now forget standards, forget morals, we want you to pump these things out as fast as possible and as cheaply as possible, forget who's involved, forget the passion of the player.
You know, I'm sorry to interrupt, but, you know, it's the cynicism in me that thinks that there's some people who are in charge of these companies that actually hate video games.
Probably.
But it galls them that they can make this much money being in it. So that's why they're in this game. They don't like the gaming, but they do like the money.
And so, unfortunately, I just think it's people from the outside who had a lot of power and a lot of money somehow weaseled their way into being in charge. Mm-hmm. And they have no idea what they're doing. They have no idea how to manage the industry. They have no idea how the public relations between these things go, because this is not these are not movies.
Right. No, and they're not.
Yeah, they need not be treated as movies.
I hate it when people say, "Well, we're gonna take a video game and put it up on the status of a movie or a book," which is really insulting to video games. A video game can be engrossing. It's just not going to engross a person as it would a movie or a book, because they're different mediums.
Yeah, like, just because it's a game, and a game doesn't mean that it can't get you invested. Like, if you didn't get a little choked up or teary-eyed at the end of Metal Gear Solid 4, you are a robot.
Yes, exactly.
So,
right.
yeah, I just think it's too many people from the outside somehow weaseled the way in the business, and the people that had the passion and they created these games, like Keiji Inafune, Mega Man, Hideki Kamiya,
yeah.
for Devil May Cry, Hideo Kojima for Metal Gear. These guys have attained so much power through the companies that they more than likely are going to go their separate ways, create their own business so that they can do things their own way, and that's kind of what they're doing. You
hear a lot of horror stories about corporate backstabbings and backstage politics, which I totally believe. When the video game industry became a $1 billion business, there's the old saying, more money, more problems. All the problems that come with it also came along too.
Unfortunately, in Japan, it's really harsh because, especially when I've gotten to know more of Japan, when I have a friend or a few friends from Japan,
cutthroat.
Like you learn how it works. Like a lot of these guys never get to go home. Like they're literally sleeping at their work. They sleep at their desk. They wake up and they have to start working again.
Well, you hear stories about people committing suicide.
Oh yeah, it's very, very real. Like it's by no means an exaggeration. It really happens.
Yeah. So it's not surprising that all these great developers who just love games just get sick and tired of the backstage stuff and they decide, I'm just going to bounce.
I'm going to bounce. I have enough money to start my own business, maybe. Right. So yeah, now you have Kamiya with
Platinum.
Yeah, Platinum Games. You got Keiji Inafune with his own company, Concept. Mm-hmm. And if Kojima wills it, I think he could leave and start his own Foxhound industry.
Oh, yeah. Oh, shoot, man. He's going to be high in demand. Can you imagine all the other people that would want to work with him?
Yeah, like, he can't take Metal Gear with him, which is a big...
But he's more than just Metal Gear.
He can definitely deliver.
Unfortunately, though, it looks like this might be the end for that Silent Hills, which is going to be extreme.
Maybe Silent Hills just wasn't meant to be.
Well, I am now worried about two projects. One is Silent Hills, and the other is Revengeance 2.
Yeah, can Metal Gear Revengeance be a thing? Well, at the same time, like, Platinum Games is the one who developed it.
Yeah.
Kojima was just kind of overseeing it and making sure the story doesn't counter anything that he wrote.
If Platinum is willing to do business with Konami, I guess it's possible, but
like maybe,
yeah. But Silent Hills, you look at that PT trailer and you just kind of think about, man, what could have been.
Like I can imagine if Platinum Games was willing to do it, they would have demands like, okay, we're gonna make the game. I don't want anybody from Konami involved. However, we are gonna get some outside help, and we are gonna get Mr. Kojima in here to help us do it.
Right.
So that's pretty much where it stands at this point in time. We don't know what the fate of Silent Hills is gonna be. We don't know what Guillermo del Toro or
right.
Norman Reedus think.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to call Quentin Flynn later and ask him, like, what does he think about this situation? And, I probably should have called him now and got him in on this.
It's kind of sad. But...
Shoot, yeah, I gotta call my buddy up. Like, hey, dude. So you know Kojima's gone, right? And he's probably gonna be
what?
Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I can't imagine how Quentin's gonna react. Like, I'm pretty sure somebody's already told him, but I'm gonna call him personally and just be like, dude, what do you think?
Pretty sad.
Like, so yeah, we might get a second. You guys might get a second hearing out of this with Quentin with us. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, like it really is the end of an era. Like I'm just looking back, like wow, over 30 years, like, and he's been with them all the way. Like and it's really not right. Like it just goes to show that these companies don't care about you.
They really don't.
Like he has been their bread and butter, one of them for over 3 decades. And they're just going to toss him to the side, or at least very much treat him like that. I don't know. We don't know the details. We don't know who was in the right or who was in the wrong. Some people claim that Kojima was egotistical, and who knows? Maybe he might have been a little bit. He's been traveling Hollywood for a while. Who knows? Like it's easy to get a little egotistical, but at the same time, he did deliver on great work. I'm not going to say he was Joan Crawford bad, but well. Well, it's tough, but we'll see. So we got Metal Gear Solid 5 Phantom Pain coming. It's going to be awkward not seeing his name there and his production's logo. But it does actually make me raise the question, now that he's out of the picture, does this mean that Metal Gear merchandise is now going to be sought after and worth something now?
Who knows?
Like, are scalpers and resellers all of a sudden going to start hitting up all the Metal Gear like toys and games and stuff and trying to resell them for high prices because Kojima's no longer around?
That's a good point.
I mean, that is kind of what happened to Mega Man.
Yeah, shoot.
Like after Keiji got axed, like all of a sudden Mega Man games just skyrocketed.
I wouldn't be surprised. You know, people will find any way to make a buck. That's for sure.
Good thing I got my games.
Yeah, me too.
I might steal your Snake Eater because I have subsistence. So
yeah, I have. He has subsistence for the PS2. I have Snake Eater.
Yeah, because my Snake Eater was stolen. Again, so many of my games got stolen. My Metal Gear Twin Snakes got stolen. That was a blow.
One of my favorite games is Metal Gear Solid 4 because of the Patriots.
Yeah, I got the collector's edition.
I love that game.
Yeah.
That really got me steeped into the Metal Gear Solid universe. Like I said, I played Metal Gear Solid 1 before, but I didn't really get too much into it. But then I played 4, and that really got me into it. Then I started going backwards. That's kind of how it is for me. I kind of start there. And
we got to play Twin Snakes again.
I would love to play Twin Snakes.
Yeah, we got to play Twin Snakes.
GameCube, right?
Yeah.
I would totally love to do that.
Made by Silicon Knights.
Nice. Right on.
Well, guys, please comment below. Tell us what you think about Hideo Kojima leaving the Konami and leaving him back his legacy.
Right.
Like, let us know. Ooh.